Welcome, everybody, and to our latest instalment of the London Interviews podcast. And I'm delighted to welcome Tom Mellor, who's Head of Technical Partnerships at the UK Hydrographic Office, a world leader in marine geospatial data. And Tom is helping to shape the global transition to S100, and we'll find out all about that in a second. But that's the next generation of maritime data standards. And through collaboration with partners across the industries, he's enabling real-world sea trials and paving the way for safer, smarter navigation. And Tom, we're looking forward to you explaining what S100 is and really the UKHO's role in supporting adoption and why partnership testing and shared learning are key to future success. Now, that's the opening intro blurb out the way, which is great. So that sort of sets the scene. First of all, a big thank you to UKHO for their support of LISW. I mean, we've been working with you guys for many, many years, and LISW is developing and growing into this very, very important, global maritime event now. But really an opportunity for blue sky thinking and thought leadership in a whole range of areas. And I'm sure you'll be looking forward to demonstrating that throughout the week itself. Tom, tell me a little bit about yourself. So you're Head of Technical Partnerships. What does that mean?
What it really means is I work with the manufacturers that are building systems that will take a lot of the digital products that we produce at the UKHO. I've been involved with digital charting since 2003. I've been working for the UKHO, all in digital charting. Started off primarily constructing the electronic navigational charts, but then quite quickly moved into developing the standards that are necessary for them to be created in the first place, but then the distribution of that information in an encrypted form and all of the standards around the display of that data in the electronic display and information systems, the ECDIS systems that are used on board now. So I've been heavily involved with the International Hydrographic Organization and developing all of the standards as well that are being used by current systems out at sea, but also the future S100 systems that we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah, shipping. I mean, just talking about digitalisation, just really your sort of Spider's view on it from an industry perspective. I mean, digitalisation, innovation, AI, call it what you may, is taking shipping by storm. And I think maritime was regarded as a bit of a late developer when it came to sort of embracing digitalisation, following the footsteps of the aviation industry and other areas. It has accelerated down that route now. But you've still got a very fragmented industry, haven't you, Tom, with, early adopters, companies that are sort of at the sharp edge of innovation. And then you've also still got ship owners who know the names of the masters and don't really embrace digitalisation. So a lot of opportunities and challenges, I guess.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we're still selling paper charts, and obviously at the other end, we've got fully digital bridges where people are using integrated bridge systems for navigation, bringing in lots of different data sources. So we have a huge range of customers that are still, like you suggested, using the paper products and manually managing their bridges right the way through to the full integrated systems. So it is a lot of different customers that we're serving at the moment.
Do you still need to have paper products as a backup in case, there's a cutout or an electricity cutout on board and the ECDIS systems don't work or whatever?
That's really down to a shipping company policy decision. I would say it's not necessary because I'm very digitally focused, and I think you can back up digital systems that will do the same thing. And, that's really, but clearly at the moment we're in a very, I say there's a lot of turmoil in the world in various places, and there's a lot of jamming and spoofing and things like that, which are causing some issues for electronic systems. And therefore there's a need to plan for that effectively, understand where you may come into interference with that and have backup plans in place, and whether that is being able to plot manual positions onto your ECDIS system. Those are the types of considerations in those areas that you need to be aware of. I wouldn't say that it necessitates moving across to paper charts, but I'd say that knowing how to use that functionality in your ECDIS system to plot manual positions and do dead reckoning is definitely something that's becoming more necessary given the political instability in certain areas.
Just touching very briefly on that, because I know we're not really focusing on that for the interview, but looking at the political instability, the whole issue about geopolitics at the moment, is that becoming more of a worry, is it, in the sense that you can get that sort of jamming or spoofing, as you're saying, or whatever that could potentially, be disastrous for a ship.
Yeah, we obviously that coupled with the fact that ships are being attacked now and are taking action to avoid those areas by sailing further to avoid the conflict areas. So we've seen a difference in trading patterns, in terms of where vessels are starting to go. There is obviously still traffic going down the Red Sea and places like that, but it's obviously quite a high risk area now. And yeah, people need to just take all the necessary precautions that they can in order to limit the risk, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think shipping is dealing with this in a whole range of different areas, I think, in the way that it formulating its strategies and what have you. Also, just one thing on the actors, I find it quite interesting that there's still no standardization, is there, on Ectis, or there's still about 30 different types of Ectis out there that people. Well, am I opening a can of worms here, Tom?
Yeah, you need to be careful, Sean, with the terminology there, because in terms of standardization, we have for the last 30 years been producing a standard electronic navigational chart that can be used in, like you said, over 30 different systems. Now, that is standardization in practice. The fact that those systems don't all look and operate in the same way, have different menu structures, is just in the same way we all have different cars. So I think that is certain manufacturers do have differences, but they are all standardized and can all take the standard format chart information. And that's been a really great success. I mean, we mustn't underestimate the fact that the industry has adopted fully the use of ECDIS and electronic charts and navigation. And I mean, that really is what has kept me in a job for the last 20 years, work in that area and making sure that all happens in the correct way. And yeah, we just can't. I think with what we're going to be talking about with S100, we're really building on a very sound foundation, and the fact that we have been able to learn a lot from what we've done over the last 20 years, and we're able to move forward with some enhancements into the future.
So, what is S100 and why does it matter to the future of navigation? I mean, we've got a lovely segue in there. It's been quite nice. We couldn't even have rehearsed that, Tom, there. But talk to me about the S100 and why it is important as far as marine data is concerned as well.
Yeah, so obviously we just talked about the existing ECDIS and the data that we produce. It's been really good in the last 20 years. But in order for us to be able to have that stability, the standards had to be frozen. And so in the last 20 years, you can imagine the technological advancements that we've made and the things that customers now require. We've not been able to adapt and modify the existing underlying data standards in order to support their new needs. And that's because, obviously, as I said, the standards have been frozen. And that meant that we couldn't make big changes to the existing systems that were out at sea without really costly software upgrades and things like that. So we needed a way in which we could introduce change and support technological advancements without damaging or undermining the current systems. And this is where S100 really comes in. It's a new data framework that's been developed by the International Hydrographic Organization, the IHO, and its whole purpose is to be extensible and to cope with new future technological changes, and can be extended without having any damaging effects on existing products or systems that are currently being used out at sea. It has a much broader range than the current IHO standard S57 had before, and there are lots of different users of S100. So it's not just the IHO that are building what we call product specifications from the S100 framework. We also have other organizations like IALA, like the World Meteorological Organization, and probably most importantly, the IMO have now determined that they will use S100 for all their maritime service descriptions. So it's being used by lots of different stakeholders. And if there is a need to extend the standard for another use case, there's another stakeholder that wants to come in and use the infrastructure that's been built by the IHO, they can do that, and we can extend in order to allow them to use the infrastructure. And the beauty of all using the common infrastructure to build products and things from means that we are hopefully building an interoperable data interface, if you like, where we can share information in a common framework, and it should all work together really in the ECDIS system.
So what will that mean then when you're all working on this platform, as you say, a seamless, interoperable situation? What are going to be the tangible benefits of that, Tom, when you look at it?
I think what we've got to do is understand exactly what those data products are first to then really understand the benefits. So the IHO have split really the work of developing these product specifications into two phases. The first phase looks at navigational products that would support the monitoring of the vessels. So you have your underlying ENC at the moment, which is in S57, and we're developing a new ENC called S101.
Do you want to explain ENC, electronic navigation
chart? Yeah, the electronic navigational chart is effectively the base information necessary to navigate your ship. It's just like all of the information that we had in the paper chart, but it's now all electronic, and it can be, now that it is electronic, you obviously benefit from the fact that GPS can be interfaced to that to give you real-time positioning, which is amazing. Obviously, also you have all of the automatic updates that apply to those charts. And so there's no manual corrections and things like that you'd need to do. And with the electronic chart, you also have the benefit of being able to set alarms and indications in the system, which clearly with a paper chart, you were never able to do that before. So the use of electronic charts in the ECDIS do so many extra advantages. And the S101 chart is really the base layer upon which all of the other S100 products will then be built. So the next layer we have is S102, and this is a bathymetry layer, gridded information, which will allow the mariner to set really accurate safety contours. At the moment in the ECDIS system, they select a 12-meter safety contour, for example, but because that contour doesn't really exist in the ENC data, the system has to default to the next safest contour that's available, and generally that's the 20 meters. But that then puts effectively 8 meters of safe water out of bounds. The new bathymetric surface and the S101 data, when you set your 12-meter safety contour, the system will look at the information in the bathymetric surface and redraw your safety contour in a much higher accuracy than we've ever been able to do before. So that really gives you a much better situational awareness where you're navigating in confined waterways. So it will hopefully extend the navigable safe areas of water. And then when we look at introducing the tidal height on top of that, which is S104, we start to get into a real dynamic situation where you can have those heights adjusted by the tide as well. So now the safety contour will not just be static at 12 meters. As the tide comes in and goes out, that safety contour will expand and contract along with the tide. So this is a real game changer, Sean, in terms of what we can achieve now for the end users, whereas previously they'd have to be going through their total tide product to understand what the tidal conditions would be in a port. Now, in the ECDIS systems, there'll be potentially a slide bar which you can set to a date and time, and that will show you exactly what the conditions will be in that area. And if you're going into a really confined port where you need a certain depth under the keel, you can work out exactly from this system when and where you can get in and what time and everything else. So the benefit of that is that if you know what time you have to get there, instead of steaming fast and then waiting, hopefully you can optimize your route so that you actually are burning less fuel, get there at the right time, that you can enter the port exactly without having to wait, and therefore saving yourself money at the end of the day.
Now, that also brings in the important role played by the technical partnerships, as you say, because if you've got a platform there, and these are not plugins, but if you understand what I'm saying, there are additional bits of technology that sit in on the platform. So do you want to just talk a little bit about, because that is really your bag, isn't it, the technical partnership side?
Yeah, so obviously hydrographic offices are building the data at the moment, but the data is only one part of the equation, really. We need the ECDIS systems and the backup bridge systems in order to be able to display that data. So we're working really closely with our distributors and with ECDIS manufacturers in order to test and develop the standards, but also understand the systems as well, and how they will, how the end users need to interact with this new data. So we're in a phase at the moment, Sean, where we're testing a lot of those phase one products that I've just talked about with ECDIS manufacturers. We have an S100 ECDIS project, which we're working internationally with our colleagues, the French Hydrographic Office, SHOM, and we have a number of ECDIS manufacturers involved in the trials with us, where we'll be fitting ECDIS systems on board Royal Navy vessels, but also ferries, to test the capabilities of the new systems, using all of that data and making sure that those new S100 ECDIS systems will operate correctly when they're in a dual fuel mode, so using both the S57 data, but also alongside all of that new S100 information. And we really need to understand how they will work when we get to complex areas like boundaries of countries. So that's a really important thing, because this electronic data should be seamless and there shouldn't be a huge step change when you move from one country's information to the other. So we're testing all of this in a pretty complex area, from around Portsmouth, Southampton, across to the Channel Islands, through the Channel Islands and over to St. Malo. And that area was chosen on purpose, really, because it's got like lots of boundary crossings, really big tides, and we'll be able to test all of these products and how they work together, and hopefully build up evidence to support the business case, really, in terms of why people should look to S100 and what can it do for them. Similarly, it supports the IHO in terms of making sure that the standards that we're producing at the moment work correctly for the end users. And some early results that we've had from our test projects, just working with the ECDIS manufacturers, is we've been able to pick up some things and feed that back into the IHO process in order to make sure that the data products that we're producing as hydrographic offices don't contain any errors or cause any display issues for the ECDIS system when they're using those new data products. So it's been a good project so far.
I was going to bring in the role of the IHO because, with the trials that you're having, and as you said, you're getting a lot of data there that you can feed in. Are you confident that, the IHO is going to be able to implement that globally, in the sense that, in all sort of areas and all ports around the world? Because, when you've got the English Channel being as busy as it is, and you've got France and the UK being, advanced countries, etc., and when you're going into other parts of the world, it must be quite different.
Yeah, so I think the capabilities of different hydrographic offices do vary, but the IHO have a capacity building program where we are going out and supporting nations to be able to build up their skills and knowledge around that. UKHO work with a lot of their data partners in this respect to help them gain the skills necessary in order to be able to start creating the data. And one of the benefits of the S100 ECDIS, as we said already, is that it's a dual fuel system. So it can support S57 and S101 at the same time. So hydrographic offices are at the moment starting to plan for how they will transfer all of their existing data, their S57 data, over to S101. But it doesn't all have to be done today. They can work and slowly transform that information over time. So it's not like there's a hard and fast date in which they're going to have all of that conversions and things made by, but it gives them a little bit of room for maneuverability, really.
And is the UK Hydrographic Office, are you playing sort of more of a leading role in all of this? Because, you've got the expertise, you've got the Admiralty charts, we know about that as well, and the importance that they play globally. But do you find yourself very much at the sharp end of this?
Yeah, I feel very much we're heavily involved and heavily invested in making sure that S100, and its development becomes a success. I think this is one of the biggest steps forward. The IMO have now mandated S100 ECDIS, and we're working, as I said, really closely with our OEM partners who are building those systems. And I think as hydrographic offices and the IHO, we've made a commitment to start creating that data and make sure that data will be available to mariners if they purchase those S100 ECDIS systems. So I think it's everyone in this chain has a part to play in order to make this a success. Yeah, UKHO are really trying to help inform the industry about what S100 is and how it will potentially support your operations. And we're also very heavily involved at the IHO in terms of helping support the infrastructure and architecture and developing all of those standards to make sure that they're robust and fit for purpose.
What are the sort of the most important factors in ensuring that this, S100 is successfully adopted across the global shipping industry and the wider maritime sector?
I think there's lots of things that need to be done in order to achieve that. As I said, I think one of the things that we really need to concentrate on is producing data in those areas that have the highest traffic densities. So using potentially AIS information in order to understand the busiest ports and everything else, and then start our data production covering those areas first. And if hydrographic offices do that, then we should have routes that are, effectively starting building up the motorways of S100 data, really, in order to then provide the highest traffic information first and then work out from there. And I think if we do that as hydrographic offices, then we stand the best chance of getting that information to those early adopters, because they're probably going on those really busy routes, Sean, as we've talked about. And therefore, if they want to adopt S100, we should have routes of information which all join up for them. So I think that's really, for me, the key thing for hydrographic, making sure we work together in order to align all of our production plans to support the end user.
And on a personal note, I mean, this is exciting, the opportunities that exist. I mean, and it certainly is future-proofing the industry, isn't it, the sector through S100, in the sense that innovation is going to be coming into the industry, continuously. And I think through this platform, you're able to tap into that. What excites you most, do you think, about the opportunities that it can unlock in the coming years, Tom?
Personally, I really enjoy being at the cutting edge. I feel like we're on the cusp of something completely new. We can come up with lots of ideas around how we think the data will support the mariner and be beneficial in the future. But I think once they end up getting hold of this information and optimization systems start using that, there may be other benefits that we've not even thought about that come out of the woodwork and that really take off in different ways. And we're seeing a lot more use of data onshore. So we think that that's going to be an area that people are going to want to have access to the S100 data. And I think it's that interoperability of the information together that will really bring out different benefits that clearly, we can start to articulate through the testing, but we'll only really start to know when people adopt these systems and start using them in anger and really get hold of that and can really understand, I can do this with this that I couldn't do. I think it's going to be a really exciting time.
We've got the London Shipping Week coming up in a couple of months' time. Could this be 9 weeks or whatever? What are you looking forward to most during the week? Because it's going to be a busy time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is going to be a really busy time. We've got an event which we are going to be hosting. So I'm going to be probably presenting at that on the 18th of September, and all of our details will be up on our website really soon. Obviously, meeting with colleagues, new and old, is going to be a really important thing for me, but really just understanding the new developments within the industry and what's keeping people up at night, really, what are their biggest concerns. Clearly, my side of it is a very small part compared to the overall industry. I know there's a lot of things around cybersecurity that are causing people concerns. Transition to greener fuels and things like that are obviously high on the agenda. So I'm excited to find out about all of those developments as well.
Well, Tom, thank you very much indeed for your time today. It's an absolute pleasure talking to you, and very, very excited about seeing the development of S100, and the way that innovation is coming into shipping is great. And this is a great example of it. It's going to be really good to see the advantages being borne out in the months and the years to come. But thank you so much indeed for your time today. And again, thank you very much for the support that the UKHO gives us. We really do appreciate it. But Tom, that's lovely. Thank you.